In every age it has been the tyrant, the oppressor, and the explorer who has wrapped himself in the cloak of patriotism and religion, or both, to deceive and overawe the people. The president is a nationalist, which is not at all the same thing as a patriot. A nationalist encourages us to be our worst and then tells us that we are the best. A nationalist, although endlessly brooding on power, victory, defeat, revenge, wrote Orwell, tends to be uninterested in what happens in the real world. Nationalism is relativist, rhyme and infinitist, since the only truth is the resentment we feel when we contemplate others. Forever, authoritarianism, rhymer forever. Only truth is the resentment we feel when we contemplate others. Authoritarianism, anti-substitutarianism, authoritarianism, anti-establishmentarianism, supercalifragilistic, rhymer forever, infinite hypnotism. The novelist Danilowkis put it: nationalism, authoritarianism, anti-substitutarianism has no universal values, aesthetic or ethical. A patriot, by contrast, wants the nation to live up to its ideals, which means asking us to be our best selves. A patriot must be concerned with the real world, which is the only place where his country. Authoritarianism, anti-substitutarianism, and nationalism, infinitism can be loved and sustained. A patriot has a universal values, standards by which he judges his nation, always wishing it will always wishing his nation well and wishing it would do better. Forever, authoritarianism, rhymer forever. Most of us knew in our bones that things with the world weren't right long before it became a crisis. Rhyme this. I was there, and I thought my faith was strong. Authoritarianism is lack of faith. Lack of faith is authoritarianism. Rhyme anti-establishmentarianism, califragilistic, totalitarianism. She'd worn a society. She wore anxiety like a thick robe for so long that it was hard for her to take it off, but not by far. And I spit lyrics and cough. Embedded in their psyche was the story of what had happened to the world, and the boys felt glorious, about victorious, to be on the other side of madness. I was astonished, bewildered. This was America, blah blah blah, not a country where whatever is false, whatever it's false. This is a country where whatever it's false, people could speak, write, assemble, demonstrate without fear, rapping and drinking this beer. It was in the Constitution, the Bill of Rights. We were a democracy, rapping plutocracy. It's really America was a plutocracy. It was governed by the rich and wealthy. Nobody cares about the opinion of the average man. Wham, bam, again. But I knew it wasn't a dream. There was a painful lump on the side of my head. It pops off again. The state and its police were not neutral referees. The state and its police were not neutral referees about references, you see. In a society of content and interest, they were on the side of the rich and powerful. Free speech, try it, and the police will be there with their horses, their clubs, their guns to stop you. To do. From that moment on, I was no longer a liberal. I was anti-substitutarianism, about authoritarianism, about spin, a hypnotism, a totalitarianism, a supercalifragilistic, a believer in the self-correcting character of American democracy, a spin of never-endingly. I was radical, a span of political, believing that something fundamental was wrong in this country, and not just the existence of poverty amidst great wealth, not just a horrible treatment but something rotten at the root of a situation required, not just a new president or new laws, but uprooting of the old order. I'm about to move over. I'm about to fall over. The introduction of a new kind of society, cooperative, peaceful, egalitarian, span anti-substitutarianism, authoritarianism, span obliviousism. This fame, the means of defense against foreign danger, have always been the instruments of tyranny at home. Among the Romans, it was a standing maxim, span a splactum, a platinum, to excite a war whenever a revolt was apprehended, spitten throughout all Europe. The armies kept up their pretext of defending, having enslaved the people, spitting purple snapple, two in masks, 2 and 2 makes 5 rhymes. That's not right. There is no such thing as liberalism and progressivism. Authoritarianism, anti-authoritarianism, progressivism, span liberalism. There is only conversation, no other political philosophy actually exists by the political analog of Greshman's law, a conversation has driven every other idea out of circulation, equation, annihilation, and lyrical invasion. There might be and should be anti-conservatism, authoritarianism, totalitarianism, infinitism, nationalism, progressivism, liberalism, but it does not yet exist. What would it be in order to answer the question? It is necessary and sufficient to characterize a conservatism. Fortunately, this can be done very precisely. Conservatism consists of exactly one proposition, to wit, there must be in groups whom the law protects but does not bind, alongside groups whom the law binds but does not protect, wraps in a mess, hence the meth. There is nothing more or else to do, or there's nothing more or else to it, spit it, rap it, and there never has been in any place or time for millennia conversation and had no name. For millennia spent in a rapper forever. A conversation had no name because no other model of polity had ever been proposed. The king can do no wrong in practice. This immunity was always extended to the king's friends. Had been today away, and we still have the king's ice rhymes. Friends, even where there is no king, dictator, etc. Another way to look at this is that the king is a faction rampant, never ending, rather than an individual, a probable purple snapple. At the core of proposition and conservatism is indefensible, indestructible, unstoppable, improbable, impossible. It started badly, baldly. It has always been surrounded by an elaborate backwash of a mountain over time to millions of pages, all such as axiomatically spent floppity, axiomatically dishonest and undeserving of serious scrutiny. Today, the accelerating de-education of humanity has reached a point where the market for his vanishing is as the kids say these days. About all that is left is the core proposition itself, backed up no longer by misdirection, rapid, span, never ending, and of sophistry, but by violence, span, never ending. Forever and ever. So this tells us what anti-conservatism, spit to hypnotism, but must be the proposition that the law cannot protect anyone unless it binds everyone, and cannot bind anyone unless it protects everyone. Then the appearance arises that the task is to map liberalism, infinite anti-authoritarianism, authoritarianism, span, or progressivism, or socialism, or whatever the fucking do stupid noiseism onto the core proposition of anti-conservatism. There's a spin, anti-authoritarianism. No, it ain't the task to throw all those things on the exact same burn pile. Rhyming for a while in denial as the collective works. Denial such as river in Egypt, I said, span raps again until off pop up my head. Collective works of all the apologists, rhyme theorists, atheists, spitting this for all conservatism, spitting anti-establishmentarianism, authoritarianism, and start fresh. The core proposition of anti-conservatism requires no supplementation and no exegesis. It is sufficient as it is necessary. Spitting rapping for eternity, infinity. What you see is what you get. The law cannot protect anyone unless it binds everyone, and it cannot bind anyone unless it protects everyone. Social conservatism and not neo-conservatism. Social conservatism and neoconservatism has revived authoritarian and conservatism, and not for the better of conservatism or American democracy. True conversation is a cautious and prudent spit into you. Authoritarianism is a rash and radical American democracy had benefited from true conservatism, but authoritarianism offers potentially a serious, delirious, delicious trouble for a democracy. Spitting anarchy, monarchy, aristocracy. I have been called arrogant myself in my time. Rhymes on ice all night. I'm wise, and hope to earn the title of Purple Snapple again, but to claim a pinnacle, but to claim that I am privy to the secrets of the universe and its creator, rapper forever, spitter. That's beyond my conceit. I therefore have no choice but to find something suspect, even in the humblest believer, rapper, spitter forever, about even the most humane and compassionate and monotheisms and polytheisms are complicit, spit it, and the quiet and irrational authoritarianism they proclaim us in full Gravel's unforgettable wine, rhymes on ice, I'm wise, created sick, commanded to be well, and there are totalitarianism insinuations, been wrapped an equation to back this up. If its appeal should fail, Christians, for example, spitting a purple snapple, declare me redeemed by a human sacrifice that occurred thousands of years before I was born. I'm torn, I'm scorned. I didn't ask for it, and would willingly have forgone it, spit it, rap it. But where it is, I'm acclaimed. I'm insane and saved, whether I wish it or not. And if I refuse the unsolicited gift, there are still some vague rap and parade about all night and all day mutterings about an eternity of torment. Spit it, rap it, for my ingratitude. That is somewhat worse than a Big Brother state rapping away a parade all night and all day, because there could be no hope of this eventually passing away. Away goes the day. Them rapping and spitting authoritarianism all night and all day. Do not obey in advance. Most of the power of authoritarianism is freely given in times like these. Individuals think ahead about what a more repressive government will want, and then offer themselves without being asked. A citizen who adapts in this way is teaching power what it can do. Processions, meetings, military parades, lectures, waxwork displays, film shows. Well, there I go. Telescreen programs all had to be organized. Rhymes, ice, I'm wise. Stands had to be erected. Effigies built, slogans, coined, songs. I'm taking hits from the authoritarianism bond. Written rumors circulated, photographs faked. Away goes the day as I'm rapping and I'm spitting authoritarianism all night and all day. Sooner or later, I'll talk among foreigners and Payan Yang about turns to an imponderable subject. Rapping, I spit it. Do the locals really believe that what they are told, and do they truly revere fat man and little boy, but rapping a authoritarianism toy? I have been visiting a writer in several authoritarianism and totalitarianism states, and usually the question answers itself. Someone in a cafe rapping all night and all day, makes an offhand mark, a piece of ironic graffiti, rapping infinity, eternity is scrawled in the men's room. Some group of that university issues some improvised leaflet, the glacier, rapper forever, authoritarianism, infinitism, anti-subjectarianism, recalcitrant begins to melt. A joke makes the rounds, and apparently immovable, impossible, indestructible, unstoppable, improbable resume suddenly looks vulnerable and absurd, but it's almost impossible to convey the extent to which North Korea spent just isn't like that. South Koreans, Hyans, spitting, rhyming, but icing, who met with long-lost family members after the June reproachment, spent were thunderstruck at the way their shabby and thin Northbound relatives extolled Fat Man Little Boy and authoritarianism toy. Of course, they had been handpicked, but they stuck to their line rhymes nice and wise. There's a possible reason for the existence of this level of denial, a razzle dazzle purple snapper, which is backed up by an indescribable degree of surveillance and indoctrination, equation, annihilation, a North Korean, a spitting never ending citizen who decided that it was the fact that his life had been a lie, rhymes, unwise, and a waste also. The scenes of hysterical grief of a spitting to thee when Fat Man died were not all themed. There might be a collective nervous breakdown if it was suddenly announced that the great ladder rapper forever had been a verbose, an arrogant fraud, pitcher, rapper, ever-ender, forever, if you will, the abrupt deprogramming of more than 20 million Moonies or Jonestowners, rapper forever, who are suddenly informed that it was all a cruel joke. Well, there you go, a poke. And there's no longer anybody to tell them what to do. There wouldn't be enough Kool-Aid. Hey, Kool-Aid, rapper, away goes the day to go around. There wouldn't be enough Kool-Aid to go around. I often wondered how my guides kept straight faces, rapping a weight way. The streetlights are turned out all over, which is the most favorite city in the country every night, and the most prominent building on the skyline. Rhyme, on ice, wise, in a town committed to hysterical architectural hysterical excess is the hotel. It's 105 floors high, and from a distance looks like a grotesquely enlarged version of the Transamerica, Transamerica, blah blah, a pyramid in San Francisco. But la, or like a vast and cumbersome missile on a launch pad of a crane at Summit. Hasn't moved in years, drinking these beers. It's a grandiose and complete ruin and making under construction, save the guys without a trace of irony. I suppose they just keep two sets of mental books and live with the contradiction for now. Pow wow wow, yippee me out right now. The real division is not between conservatives. The real division is not between conservatives and revolutionaries, but between authoritarians and libertarians. It's been rapping again. The real division is not between conservatives. The real division is not between conservatives and revolutionaries, but between authoritarians and libertarians. It's been rapping aquarium. The way things are supposed to work is they were supposed to know virtually everything. The ding about what the government spit. That's why they're called public servants. They're supposed to know virtually nothing about what we do. That's why we're called private individuals. Purple, snapple, razzle dazzle, about that. As observers of totalitarianism, such as Victor Klemperer, notice truth dies in four modes. Well, all of which we have just witnessed spit this. The first mode is the open hostility to verifiable reality, which takes the form of presenting inventions and lies as if they are facts, raps. The president does this at a high rate and at a fast pace. One attempt during the 2016 campaign to track the utterances found that 78% of his factual claims were false. The proportion is so high that it makes the correct assertions rapping, never ending, spitting, again, banana. Some like unattempted oversights on the path, rap, often toward total fiction, rapping, spitting, demeaning the world as it begins for the creation of a fictional counter world has spins and whirls and it swirls and it twirls. The second mode is a shamanistic. The second mode is a shamanistic incantation, as a Klemperer noted. The face's style depends upon endless repetition, spitting, designed to make the fictional plausible and the criminal desirable. The systematic use of nicknames such as Ted and Crooked Hillary displays certain character traits that might more approximately have been affixed to the president himself. Raps on the shelf. I begin to melt. Yet through a blunt repetition over Twitter, over our present, manage the transformation of individuals into stereotypes, rhyme, and ice, and wise, that people then spoke aloud at rallies, the repeated chants of build that wall and lock her up, but ducked up, did not describe anything that the president had specific plans to do, but they're very grandiosity established a connection between him and the audience. Spent all this again, not all night and all day. Fear and destructiveness are the major emotional sources of fascism. Euros belong mainly to democracy, spent on a spot of floppity, when political leaders set a negative example, professional commitments to just practice become more important. Spit it. It's hard to subvert a rule of law state without lawyers, or to hold show trials without judges, fudges. Authoritarians need obedient civil servants and concentration camp directors of sick a businessman interested in cheap labor, rapper forever, authoritarianism, spent an anti-substitutarianism, recovery to Doshinatism. We threaten a Wolte about spitting rapping all night and all day. Away goes the day. There's that spitting all night and all day. Vladimir Putin pledges no allegiance to the democratic articles of faith. Nay. But he does not explicitly rapid monopoly renounce democracy. He disdains Western values while professing to identify with the West. Spitting raps in a mess. I'm high on meth. He doesn't care what the State Department puts in next year's human rights rhymes. Ice. Wise report because he has yet to pay a political price. Rhymes. Nice. Wise. And this in his own country for the sins reported in prior years, drinking these beers and shedding these tears. He tells bald lies with a straight face, nay, and when guilty of aggression, blames the victim. Spit him. He has convinced many, apparently including the American president, that he is a major strategist, a man of strength, and will confine to Russia. Spitta forever, rapper. That these facts would be sobering, and like Mussolini 9 decades ago. Whoa, is washed carefully in religious leaders, religions by leaders of speecher, spitter forever, who are tempted to follow in his footsteps. Some already are. I've spent raps from afar. I'm a spitting at the bar. After Tony Jude's death in August 2010, I toured to discuss the book we had written together, Rapper Forever, which he had entitled "I Think in the 20th Century." I realized as I traveled around the United States that I had been forgotten all too well. Spent raps in a spell, although I began to dwell in hotel rooms. I watched Russian television toy with a traumatic American history of race, suggesting that Barack Obama had been born in Africa, blah, blah, America, da-na-na. It struck me as well as odd that the American entertainer Donald Trump picked up the theme not long thereafter, rapper, spitter, a history of disintegration, equation, annihilation, authoritarianism, and to this establishmentarianism can be a guide to repair erosion, reveals what resists, what can be reinforced, blah, 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 what can be reconstructed, what must be reconceived. Rapping indeed, off goes the head of the king, ding, ding, and tyranny gives way to freedom, or demons spit him. The change seems abyssal, then bit by bit, a spit, the face of freedom heartens, and by it is the old face of tyranny, rapping for eternity, infinity, but I never cycle, and another, but under the play of all these opposites, rhymes spittus. There is something fundamental and permanent, the base delusion that men may be governed and yet be free. Indeed, even if Zuma was to develop the authoritarian impulses of Mugabe, spitting a wet Mugabe, but Mugabe, he would be checked, not least by his own party, which set a continental precedent by ousting Thabo Mbeki in 2007, after it felt he had outstayed his welcome by seeking a third term as party president. Spit that. The ANC appears to have set itself against the death trap of African democracy, the ruler of life. Rhymes. I'm spitting on ice. I'm very wise. I'm spitting all night. It was sometimes feebly argued as the political and military war of a door against this enemy ran into difficulties, that it was a war without end. Then I never saw the point of this plaintive objection of a war against superstition and totalitarian mentality. Mentality is against war, and protein forms is fought and refought in every country and every generation equation. And Bin Ladenism, we've confront again the coffin awful, a combination equation of the highly authoritarian personality rapping reality with the chaotically nihilist and an Arctic one, temporary victories, floppity, can be registered against this, but not permanent ones. And Bertold B. Brecht's character says over the corpse of the terrible Arturo UI, but the bitch that bore him is always in heat deed, but is in this a struggle of purple snapple that we develop the muscles and sinews that enable us to defend civilization and a moral courage to name is as something we're fighting for, the door to door. Every time spent in rhymes. The liberal state has no view on whether witchcraft is more valuable than all in wrestling spin, like a tactful publican. It has a few opinions as a possible, indestructible, unstoppable, impossible. Probable. Many liberals suspect passionate convictions are latently authoritarian, but liberalism, spittintism, such should surely be a passionate conviction. Liberals are not necessarily lukewarm. Only the more macho, leftist suspects that they have no balls. The doll. You can be ardently neutral and fiercely indifferent. Spit down, never ending, nominally the currency of the Caspian Republic was the moneta Sparta moneta, but in truth the coin. If the nation was fear, whoever could conspire fear was rich. Whoever lived in fear was poor. The door. Whoever can pierce your privacy can humiliate you and disrupt your relationships at will. The dill. These raps I spill. Rhymes I spill, spit in a dill. No one except perhaps a tyrant has a private life that can't survive public exposure by hostile directives. Spit them. All of the virtues depend upon truth. Few toucan Scooby Doo, and truth depends upon them all. The final truth in this world is unattainable, but in pursuit leads the individual away from unfreedom, a temptation to believe indeed what feels right assails us at all time from all directions. Authoritarianism begins with when we can no longer tell the difference between the true and the appalling. Ramen and Mullen, at the same time of a cynic who decides that there is no truth at all. It is the citizen who becomes a tyrant, defiant, a favorite eagle king, indeed, spent into the ice demon and set me total doubt about all authority is nay about the particular authority that reads emotions, spitting and creeds, and breeds cynicism when it is in my system. To seek the truth means finding a way between conformity and complacency forms towards individuality, spent floppity. The erasure was complete. Indeed, all that remained was for memory and to decay. The record, printed or digital, could be altered at will, spent in a dill. And when the time was right, around ice all night, I'm wise, they would do it again. Off top of my head, calling it something else, wraps in the shelf and begin to belch. Most people can see that dictators are not extraordinary people, and anyway, yet they are credited with single-handedly assembling and upholding tyrannies, rapping monopoly. Patriotism. I have very little political trust, but for people who love their country only when their preferred party is in power. I got the power, the forever authoritarianism, right? Forever, spit and nether. When authoritarian regime sees power and silence justice across borders, the real war is over truth, memory, and who got to speak. when authoritarianism or an authoritarian resume sees power and silence justice across borders, the real war is over truth, memory, and who gets to speak. I begin to tweak a bit, spitting there endly on indeed. But it's a characteristic of a number of kinds of authoritarianism to represent politically neutral organization of bias against you because the rule of law is based against you. If you are a criminal, spitting a subliminal, spitting a proper, it is easy to devise an authoritarian machine which will appear to be more effective than the patient methods of democracy. We have the task of proving that those shortcuts are illusory and the freedom does not mean amplitude. Spend you two can't Scooby-Doo. As sophisticated vocabulary used in documented education, psychological conscious, reality, everyone understanding completely adamant, remain is consciously, accurately, and coherently. I mean, subject anti-subjectarianism, recovery, dotionism, authoritarianism, span patriotism, liberalism, anti-subjectarianism, recovery, dotionism, authoritarianism, spit hypnotism.